When my adopted son found his birth family, he blocked me from attending his college send-off dinner. But when his birth mom asked him to pitch in for the bill, he tried using my bank card and realized everything had changed right away. What happened next was shocking. I will share everything with you today. First, let me thank you for watching Granny's Voice. Your support means the world to me. If you like our stories, please subscribe to our channel. It would make me happy if you could tell us which city you are watching from in the comments. We might mention you in our next video. Today's special hello goes to Lena from Atlanta, Georgia. Thank you for enjoying our stories. Now let me tell you what really happened. I never thought my heart could break so completely. That's what kept me awake every single night. More than his cold words, more than the way he looked through me like I was invisible, more than how he said thank you like I was a stranger. My name is Lisa and I am 69 years old. For 20 years I was his mom, not his helper, not his backup plan, not someone who didn't matter. I was the one who held him when he cried from bad dreams, who made his lunch every day with little happy notes because I wanted him to smile, and who taught him to ride his bike even though I was scared he would fall. I was there when kids were mean to him and when he felt sad, and for every birthday party where only I showed up with a cake from the store. But in just a few months, everything fell apart when he found his birth family. All the years I loved him and took care of him suddenly felt like something he wanted to forget. Like he was done with me and didn't need me anymore. Started with small changes. He stopped calling me mom and started using my first name like we barely knew each other. I tried to be okay with it the first few times, thinking maybe he just needed space to grow up. I didn't want to be too pushy. I know young men need to find themselves. But I didn't think he would try to find himself by pushing me away completely. He would come home late, wearing cologne I didn't recognize, talking about them like they were perfect. My real dad said I should apply for this job or my birth mom is helping me pick classes. My heart would hurt every time, but I would smile like everything was fine because if I said anything, he would think I was jealous of the woman who gave him away. So I said nothing and watched him slowly remove me from his life like erasing something he didn't want to remember anymore. Then came the send-off dinner news. He mentioned it while eating breakfast, being careful not to look at me directly, like he already knew I wouldn't be happy. "We're having a dinner before I leave for college," he mumbled while looking at his phone, not even glancing up. "Just a small thing with the family." I smiled, trying to catch his attention. "I would love to help cook for everyone," I said gently. "Should we have it here? I can make your favorite meal," I offered. He cut me off quickly. "No, it's just for my real family. They're planning everything. You wouldn't fit in anyway." I remember standing there by the kitchen counter holding a coffee mug, my hands starting to shake. "What do you mean I wouldn't fit in?" I asked, my voice trembling. He finally looked at me then, his eyes flat and tired like he had outgrown me. "It's only for blood family. You get it, right?" No, I didn't get it. Not at all. That night, I stayed awake until 3 in the morning looking through old photos on my phone. His first day of school in that blue shirt. His soccer games where I cheered the loudest. The surprised look on his face when I got him the video game he really wanted for Christmas. I remembered when he had the flu and I stayed home from work for 5 days to take care of him, bringing him soup and medicine every few hours. I remembered his first broken heart when his girlfriend dumped him and how we watched movies together until he felt better. Wasn't that real? Wasn't that what family does? But to him it seemed like only blood mattered now. I had raised him, given him everything I had to give. But the moment someone who shared his genes showed up, I was pushed aside. No warning, no discussion, just thrown away. I didn't go to the dinner. I wasn't wanted there. I didn't call him, didn't text. I just let that evening pass in silence. I pictured him sitting in a nice restaurant, all dressed up, laughing with people who looked like him but had missed 20 years of his life, yet somehow earned the right to celebrate his big moment. I wondered if he even mentioned me at all. I wondered if anyone there knew who had worked extra hours every week to save money for his college. Hint, it was me. I saved every penny I could. Said no to trips, to new clothes, to dinners with friends. Also he could go to college without owing too much money. And now he had given my seat at the table to someone who had disappeared from his life until it was easy to come back. I don't think I slept at all that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan spinning around and around. I kept thinking, is this what being a mom leads to? 20 years of invisible hard work only to be forgotten when the story ends. I wasn't looking for a trophy, but I thought I would at least get a proper goodbye, some kind of ending. But I got nothing. Just the sound of him leaving and the echo of blood family ringing in my ears like a curse. Felt like someone close to me had died, but nobody had actually died except maybe the version of him who used to call me mom and really mean it. When morning finally came, I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair where he used to sit for breakfast. He hadn't eaten with me in months, but I always put out a plate for him anyway, like some sad ritual I couldn't stop doing. That morning I didn't. That morning I went online to our shared bank account and quietly took away his card access. Not because I wanted to hurt him, but because I had to respect myself. If I wasn't good enough to be part of his life, then my money shouldn't be either. He had made his choice. Now I was making mine. The first message came to my phone at 9:15 in the morning. It was from my bank, asking if I had tried to spend $287 at Romano's Italian Kitchen. At first I thought it was one of those fake messages you delete right away, but something about the restaurant name sounded familiar. I opened the alert and looked at the time. 9:03 p.m. last night, right when his send-off dinner would have been ending. My stomach felt sick as I stared at my phone. Romano's was an expensive restaurant downtown, the kind of place you went for special occasions. I knew because I had looked at their menu online once for his 18th birthday. But when I saw how much everything cost, I decided to cook his favorite meal at home instead. Apparently he had no problem with the high prices now, especially when he thought he could use my money. Called the bank and they told me the charge had been denied and asked which card was used. The lady on the phone was nice but sounded tired, like she answered these questions all day long. Yes ma'am, it was your authorized user's card ending in 4738. That was his card, the one I let him use for school books, gas and emergencies, not fancy pasta and expensive drinks. I asked if he had tried to use it other times. Yes, 4 more times, in fact all denied, all between 9:03 and 9:08. I could picture him standing there at a table full of smiling strangers, trying to look like a responsible adult with his shiny credit card and confident attitude, only to watch his plan fall apart in front of everyone. There was a tiny part of me, a small, bitter part that felt good about this. Not because I wanted to embarrass him, but because I needed him to understand that you can't push someone out of your life and still expect them to pay your bills. I didn't hear from him that night. No text, no call, no knock on my door, just quiet. I imagined his birth mom having to pay the whole bill, her eyes getting narrow with annoyance, wondering what kind of adoptive mother would embarrass her son like that. I imagined what they all said, the whispers, the way they probably looked at him differently afterward. Maybe they finally realized he wasn't as grown-up as he wanted them to think. I knew it wasn't nice to think like that, but I couldn't help it. I had been made to feel like garbage, and now he had to face what his choice really cost, both in money and feelings. The next morning he came to my door. I wasn't even dressed for the day yet. Still in my pajamas, holding a half-empty cup of coffee when I heard the knocking. It wasn't soft. It was loud, urgent, angry sounding. I opened the door to find him standing there still wearing the same clothes from last night. His hair was messy. His eyes red like he hadn't slept. His face tight with anger. He looked tired, not just from staying up late, but tired deep in his soul. "What the heck, Mom?" he said loudly, not waiting for me to invite him in before pushing past me into the living room. It was the first time he'd called me Mom in months, but the way he said it didn't sound loving. It sounded like he was blaming me for something. I closed the door behind him and followed slowly. My heart was already beating fast because I knew this was going to be bad. He turned around to face me like I was a stranger who had done something terrible. "Why did you block my card?" he demanded, crossing his arms like I was a kid who had stolen something from him. I didn't answer right away. I sat down slowly, put my coffee on the table, and looked right at him. "You blocked me from your life," I said quietly. I thought it was only fair. His mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked really surprised, like he never thought I would actually say something like that out loud. You embarrassed me, he said finally, his voice shaking now. In front of everyone. My birth mom had to pay for everything. Do you know how that looked? Yes, I said calmly. Looked like you expected someone you kicked out of your life to keep paying your bills for your new life. He stepped back like I had hit him. That's not fair, he whispered. I never said I didn't love you. I made a sound that was supposed to be a laugh, but it came out harsh and bitter. Nothing like my normal laugh. You didn't have to say it with words. You showed it. You showed it when you didn't invite me to dinner. When you called her mom in front of your friends. When you erased me so easily the second you found someone who had the same blood as you. I could feel my hands shaking, but I kept talking. And now you want my money. You want me to be the invisible person who pays for everything while you give all the attention to someone else. He sat down across from me. His arms hanging loose at his sides now. I didn't think you'd actually cut me off, he said quietly, barely looking at me. That word actually hit me like a punch to the stomach. So you knew I would someday, I said. The hurt crawling up my throat like I was going to be sick. You just hoped you could get one more favor out of me before I got smart enough to stop. He didn't say that wasn't true. That silence told me everything I needed to know. You want to be independent, sweetheart, I said, standing up. That includes paying for things yourself. You can't block me as your mother but keep me around as your bank account. That's not how any of this works. He started crying then. Real, broken sobs that twisted my heart and made me want to hug him tight like I used to when he was little. But I didn't move. I sat there and let him cry because sometimes loving someone means letting them feel the hurt their choices cause. Sometimes love means stepping back even when every part of you wants to step forward and fix everything. He wiped his face with his sleeve and looked at me with eyes I barely knew anymore. I didn't think it would end like this, he whispered. Neither did I said just as quietly, but it did, and there was no going back to how things used to be. He came back the next morning, same time, same tears, but this time he didn't even knock. He just sat on my front steps like he lived there. Like he hadn't burned down our relationship with his own words and actions. I watched him through the window for a whole 5 minutes before I opened the door. He was hunched over, arms wrapped around his knees, his face red from crying. This time, not from staying out late, but from staying up all night, the kind you spend walking around your room, realizing you've made a terrible mistake but not knowing how to fix it without admitting you were wrong. His backpack was next to his feet like he'd forgotten about it. For a moment, I almost thought he was the little boy who used to wait for me outside the grocery store, holding his toy car with both hands and looking for my car in the parking lot. But that little boy had called me Mom with his whole heart. This one was here because his safety net had broken and he didn't know where else to go. I opened the door and leaned against the frame. You're early, I said with no emotion in my voice. He looked up surprised like he didn't think I'd actually come outside. I didn't know where else to go, he said with a shaky voice, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. His voice cracked with the kind of sadness that used to make me drop everything I was doing. The kind that once made me drive through a snowstorm just to bring him hot chocolate when he was sick. But now it felt different. Now it felt like someone else wearing my son's face. I didn't move from the doorway. Why didn't you go to your real mom's house? I asked, and it sounded meaner than I meant it to. His face looked like I had slapped him, and in a way I guess I had. He needed to know what it felt like to be told you're second place in someone's life, to be thrown away like you don't matter. He stood up then shakily, his knees making noise as he straightened up. I messed up, he said quietly. I know that, but you don't have to be mean to me. I blinked at that word, mean. I had spent the last few months swallowing heartbreak silently, pretending to be fine every time he walked past me in the hallway or texted his birth mom during dinner. I had tiptoed around his new loyalty like it was something fragile I didn't want to break. And now he thought I was the mean one because I didn't want to pay for his fantasy anymore. I'm not being mean, I replied, keeping my voice steady. I'm being honest. There's a big difference. I opened the screen door a little and pointed at his backpack. If you're here for money or a place to stay, You'll have to ask the people you chose instead of me. He blinked fast, his jaw shaking like he wanted to argue but didn't know what to say. They're not what I thought they would be, he whispered. It's not like I imagined it would be. His voice got smaller. She wanted me to pay for my part of the dinner. Said it was important for me to learn to be responsible, but she didn't tell me that beforehand. She waited until the check came and just pushed it toward me. His hands were shaking now. She said, "You're an adult now. Start acting like one." I stayed quiet, letting his words hang in the air between us. Sounded like tough love, but maybe tough love hits different when it comes from someone who never bothered to raise you from a baby. For a moment I felt like giving in, like pulling him into the house and making him pancakes, like fixing everything the way I always used to. But then I remembered the look on his face when he told me I wasn't invited to his send-off dinner. I remembered hearing him laugh on the phone, telling his birth mom she was the real MVP. I remembered walking past his bedroom one night and hearing him say, "Yeah, she was just the lady who raised me, but you're my actual mom." That sentence had played in my head for weeks. Just the lady who raised me. Like my entire motherhood had been reduced to babysitting until someone better showed up. And now, when reality didn't match his dream, he wanted to come back and pick up where we left off, like love could be paused and unpaused when it was convenient. "You made your choice," I said, stepping fully onto the porch now. "And I accepted it, but choices have results. You don't get to make me disappear when it works for you, and then bring me back when things get hard." She looked away, his chin trembling. "I didn't think you'd actually let me go." He whispered like he hated having to admit it. That got to me because of course he didn't. I'd always been the one who kept everything together. I was the glue, the safety net, the quiet person in the background making sure nothing fell apart. But I wasn't that anymore. I couldn't be. I wouldn't be. A neighbor down the street was walking their dog and I noticed them glance over at us. I didn't care. Let them see. Let the whole world see what it looks like when a mother draws a line that no one thinks she ever will. "I love you," I said, my voice catching a little even though I didn't want it to. "But love isn't permission to use people. I've been your mom in every way that matters. But you've treated me like a backup plan. And I can't keep being the person you fall back on when your dream doesn't work out." He looked shocked, like he hadn't thought that love had limits, that I too could reach a breaking point. "So that's it?" he asked, his voice empty. "You're just done with me?" I nodded slowly. "For now, yes, until you figure out what family really means. Until you learn to love without using people." I turned around and went back inside, closing the door behind me. I didn't slam it. I didn't lock it, but I didn't open it again either. Even when I heard his quiet crying start up again. Even when I heard him pick up his backpack and walk back down the steps, his footsteps getting quieter as he walked away. I sat on the couch afterward, staring at the spot where he had been standing on the porch, and felt something change in me. Not happiness, not relief, but determination. I hadn't closed the door because I was angry. I closed it because I had to survive. I had given him everything. And now I was giving him the space to figure out if any of that had ever meant anything to him at all. 3 days passed in tense quiet, the kind that doesn't shake the house but lives under everything, humming like electricity about to spark. I didn't hear from him. Not a knock, not a call, not even a cowardly text message, just emptiness. And I'll be honest, I kept checking. Every morning I looked out the window a little longer than I needed to. Every night I left the outside light on longer than I should have. Hope is a stubborn thing. It's not gentle or pretty. It's sharp and annoying, digging into your chest every time you think you've finally let go. But when the phone rang that morning, I knew. Before I even looked at it. I didn't know the number, but something in my gut twisted the way it always did when he was involved. I answered cautiously. "Hello," I said, my voice quiet and careful. There was a pause and then I heard a voice. Not his exactly, but one that sounded like his, only older, smoother, practiced, like someone used to getting their way. "Hi, this is Patricia. I'm his birth mother." She didn't even say my son's name. Just his. Like I didn't already know. Like I hadn't memorized every detail of that boy's life since the day I brought him home from the hospital. I stayed quiet, waiting. Patricia continued. I just wanted to clear some things up. He's really upset, and I think maybe there's been a misunderstanding between you two. I could hear her chewing something on the other end. Casual, breezy in that way only someone who hasn't done the hard work of parenting can afford to be. He feels like you kind of blindsided him. The card thing, it really embarrassed him in front of everyone. I don't know what broke first, my patience or my control. But I finally spoke. Let me make one thing very clear. I said each word careful and deliberate. You don't get to call me and make me feel guilty for not paying for a dinner I wasn't invited to. You don't get to act like I blindsided him when he's the one who pushed me out of his life like I never existed. I raised him alone for 20 years. Where were you when he had appendicitis at 8 and I slept in a hospital chair for 4 nights? Where were you when he cried into my shoulder after his first girlfriend broke his heart? You were nowhere, but now you're back and you want to play family and I'm just supposed to keep paying for it all. There was silence on the phone. Not the awkward kind, but the kind that told me I had finally said something no one else had the courage to say. Patricia cleared her throat. Look, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I just thought maybe you'd want to help him. He's still your son, isn't he? And that's when I laughed. I didn't mean to. Just came out bitter, sharp, hollow sounding. He was my son until he told people I was just the lady who raised him. My voice cracked on the last part, and I hated that it did. He didn't say that, Patricia replied quickly, but the pause afterward gave her away. She knew she'd heard it. Maybe she even encouraged it. He did, I said quietly. And I heard it with my own ears. After I hung up, I sat on the floor of the living room, knees pulled up to my chest and just breathed. I didn't cry. Couldn't. The well was empty. I was exhausted from missing someone who was still alive, still breathing, still walking around with my heart in his back pocket like it wasn't worth anything. I thought about all the times I made excuses for him, even to myself. He's just going through a phase. He's confused. He's trying to figure out who he is. But this wasn't confusion. This was a choice. And he had chosen again and again to dismiss, ignore, and replace me. And for what? A woman who couldn't be bothered to show up until it was time for pictures and fancy dinners. That night, I went through my closet and found the baby blanket I had kept all these years. It was soft and faded, still smelling faintly of the fabric softener I used when he was little. I held it in my lap and traced the edges I'd sewn by hand. The name I gave him, not the one he now used like a badge of new identity. I thought about throwing it away, about ending this chapter completely. But something in me couldn't do it. Not out of love, but out of memory. Because no matter what he said now, I was the woman who held him through nightmares, who kissed his scraped knees, who stood at every baseball game, even when he forgot to wave at me in the stands. That mattered, even if only to me. The next day I got another knock at the door. This time when I opened it, he didn't look broken. He looked angry. His arms were crossed. His jaw tight with frustration. Why did you tell her that I called you just the lady who raised me? He snapped. I told her that in private. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I blinked, shocked by his nerve. You said it. You meant it. You've been acting like it. So don't stand here and try to make it sound like I twisted your words around. His face turned red with anger. You're making this worse than it has to be. Came here to talk, not fight. Then maybe you should have come here with something other than excuses, I shot back. She looked away, blinking fast. It was just a bad moment. I was trying to explain our relationship to people who don't understand it. Then explain this, I said, stepping closer. If I'm just the lady who raised you, why are you still trying to use my credit card? Why are you coming to my house when things fall apart? You don't get to throw away a parent and then come back when the world isn't as nice as you thought it would be. His lips started shaking. I don't want your money. I just what I cut in. You just want my guilt, my silence, my support when it's convenient for you. You can't pick and choose pieces of me. I'm not a restaurant menu. I'm your mother. Or at least I was. He stood there for a while looking at me like I was a puzzle he couldn't solve. And I guess I was, because for the first time in his life I wasn't bending. I wasn't making the path smoother or making things easier. I was done being the backup plan. And he was finally seeing that. It was only a matter of time before the phone rang again. This time I knew who it was before I even looked at the screen. Patricia, the woman who gave birth to my son, disappeared for nearly 20 years, then reappeared with open arms and empty promises, just in time to claim the title of real mom. I let it ring 3 times before I answered. I wanted her to worry. Wanted her to know she was calling someone who wasn't playing nice anymore. "Hello," I said, my voice low, emotionless. She sounded cheerful, like we were old friends. "Hey, it's Patricia again. Look, I wanted to touch base about what happened the other day. I think things got a little heated between you and him. And honestly, I just want what's best for everyone here." Didn't say anything. I just waited, letting her fill the silence with her excuses. "I talked to him last night," she continued, "and he's really upset. He says you're being harsh and that he didn't mean to hurt you. Maybe you could just, forgive and move on." I laughed, quiet but sharp. "Forgive and move on," I repeated. "Is that what he wants? Or is that what you want? Because you don't want to deal with the mess you helped create." She tried to interrupt, but I didn't give her the chance. "You want to play mother now? Great. That's your right. But don't you dare come to me asking for forgiveness after watching him treat me like trash. Don't ask me to fix this so you can keep being the hero without ever doing any of the hard work." She let out a long breath. "Look, I know I wasn't there and I'm sorry for that, but I'm here now. Isn't that what matters most?" The question hit me like a slap. I stood up from the couch and started walking around the room, phone pressed tight to my ear. "No," I said. "What matters is being consistent. What matters is showing up when it's hard, when nobody thanks you, when no one is clapping for you." I didn't get to disappear when he slammed doors and yelled at me. I stayed through all of it. And now you show up with your matching eyes and Facebook photos. And he calls you his mother while I get reduced to just the lady who raised him. And you think I'm the one who needs to forgive and move on." She tried to make her voice softer. "He's just trying to figure out who he is. He's 20. Young people make mistakes." I stopped walking. My hand tightened around the phone. No, young people steal candy and lie about homework. This was betrayal. This was a choice. Don't insult me by calling it a mistake. She didn't reply right away. And I could tell she was finally understanding that I wasn't the kind of woman who gave in under pressure. She said, "You cut him off," Patricia mumbled. "That you shut the door on him." I swallowed hard. "I didn't shut the door." He walked out and locked it behind him. I just didn't open it again when he knocked with guilt in one hand and selfishness in the other. After the call ended, I stared at myself in the bathroom mirror for a long time. My face looked tired, older than it had the week before. Sadness does that. Doesn't just live in your heart. Crawls into your skin, your eyes, your bones. I had spent the better part of 2 decades raising a child who no longer wanted to claim me. And now I was supposed to what? Say sorry for not being a doormat. I thought of all the women I knew who had been erased by their children after adoption reunions. All the mothers who had poured love into every fiber of their kids' lives, only to be replaced like they were never more than temporary caregivers. And the world always asked the same thing of them. Be bigger. Be forgiving. Be quiet. But I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. That evening, I logged into our joint college savings account, the one I had opened for him the day he started first grade. Every birthday check, every extra dollar I earned from working overtime, every skipped vacation piled into that account for his future. I stared at the balance and felt nothing. No pride, no sadness, just a strange calm as I clicked the button to close it. I moved what was mine back into my account and put the rest into a separate trust fund. One he'd only get access to if he came back with an apology, not a demand. It wasn't revenge. It was clarity. If he wanted to build his life without me, he could. Do it without my money too. Around 10 o'clock, I got a text from an unknown number. "You really closed the account. Wow, you're punishing me for finding my family. You're unbelievable." I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. "I'm not punishing you for finding your family. I'm just finally believing you when you said I wasn't part of it." He didn't respond. I didn't expect him to. Instead, I made myself a small dinner, grilled chicken and green beans, and ate it on the back deck. The sky was gray with clouds, a storm coming in the distance, but the air was peaceful. For the first time in weeks, the house didn't feel haunted by his absence. Just felt like mine again. I drank tea and let the silence hold me. Not as punishment, but as a promise. A reminder that peace sometimes follows the loudest kind of heartbreak. And in that moment, I didn't feel like a bad person. I felt like a mother who had finally chosen herself. A week passed. 7 long empty days without a call. Without a text. Without even a bitter message in my inbox. The quiet no longer felt like punishment. It had become a boundary, a line I had drawn, not with anger or spite, but with a kind of clarity that only comes after you've cried enough to fill an ocean and stood in the wreckage long enough to realize you don't want to rebuild what was there. I spent those days taking long walks, cleaning out his old room. Not as an act of revenge, but as an act of restoration. I packed the childhood toys, the trophies, the books he probably forgot he left behind. Every item went into a labeled box, sealed and stacked neatly in the garage. Not thrown away, but not welcome in the house either, just like him. It was during one of those quiet afternoons, the sunlight streaming through the kitchen window, that I found the envelope tucked into the side of the junk drawer where we used to keep extra phone chargers and takeout menus. It sat there innocently, the handwriting unmistakably his. Don't know why he left it there. Maybe he meant to give it to me. Maybe he hoped I'd find it later when the anger had cooled down. I hesitated before opening it, every muscle in my body tensing like I was preparing for another hit. Inside was a single sheet of notebook paper torn along the edge. His handwriting was messy, rushed. At the top he'd written, "I didn't mean to make you feel like you didn't matter." That was all it took. Tears, hot, sudden, and unwanted. I read the rest quickly, afraid I'd stop if I slowed down. He talked about being confused, about wanting to belong somewhere that looked like him, about feeling torn between loyalty and curiosity. He admitted that he'd said hurtful things, and that he thought I would always be there, no matter how far he pushed. But the thing that broke me more than anything was the last line. "If you hate me now, I understand. But I hope one day you'll remember that I was your little boy first." I sat down, letter trembling in my hands, and felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not softness, but understanding. This wasn't a story of clear villains and innocent victims. This was a story of broken people trying to make sense of their own pain. And while I didn't excuse how he handled it, I finally saw the child in him again. The scared one, the uncertain one. The one who still wanted to be loved even as he pushed me away with both hands. But that didn't mean I could open the door again. That didn't mean I could forget what he had said or undo how he had made me feel. So thrown away, so replaceable, so invisible. I sat on the deck again that evening, watching the sky turn purple with sunset, and thought about what it meant to love someone who no longer made space for you. People say unconditional love means taking someone back no matter what. But I don't believe that anymore. Real love, grown-up love, has conditions. And one of them is respect. Another is giving back what you get. You don't get to claim the benefits of my love while spitting on the foundation it was built. You don't get to exile me and still expect me to play mother when it's convenient. The next morning, I mailed the box of his things to his college address. I didn't include a note. I didn't want to confuse him with emotion. He needed to know I'd moved forward, not in anger, but in truth. That night I got a voicemail. He didn't ask me to call back. He didn't beg me to reconsider. He just said, "I got the box. Understand now. I wish things were different, but I get it. I just wanted to say thank you for everything, even if I didn't say it when it mattered." And that was it. No fairy tale ending, no tearful reunion, just a quiet voice on the phone, full of regret, maybe even growth, hanging in the air like a song with no ending. People like to believe every broken relationship can be fixed. That's the story we're told. Redemption, forgiveness, a perfect bow on top of years of silence and hurt. But the truth is, sometimes relationships die without ever being buried. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is stop playing the role someone expects from you and walk away with your dignity intact. I didn't hate him. I didn't wish him harm. But I couldn't go back to being the woman who kept giving while being asked to shrink smaller and smaller just to fit in his shadow. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe one day we'll find our way back. Not to what we were, but to something new, something honest. Or maybe this is the end of our story together. Either way, I'm not waiting at the door anymore. I'm living my life. I'm reclaiming my peace. I'm letting go of the fantasy that love always wins and embracing the truth that boundaries sometimes have to win, because loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. And I loved him. I still do. But I love me more now. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you raised, loved, or sacrificed everything for because they stopped seeing your worth? This story isn't just about a mother and son. It's about the moment you stop being someone's safety net and start being your own sanctuary. If you've ever had to choose peace over people, share your story in the comments. And if this touched something deep in you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Granny's Voice. There's more where this came from, and your story deserves to be heard. See you soon in the next video.